Alright, what is going on YouTube? Jordan back here with the third video on this channel. Today we are going to be not looking at a book, but at an author, Mr. Haruki Murakami himself, as you guys can probably tell by the thumbnail. Now before we get into this video, I do wanna start a new thing on this channel. Today I'm having some Twinings jasmine green tea, absolutely phenomenal. And this, look at this little mug, isn't that the cutest freaking thing? So go ahead, before we get into this video, go make yourself a cup of tea of some kind. I want to have a different tea in every video. This is my favorite tea, but I want to have a different tea in every video, and you know, and make it part of the channel. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into whether or not Haruki Murakami is controversial or genius, or if he's a little bit of both. So I've been running through Haruki Murakami's Kafka on the Shore. I've been about to finish it for the last 2 months, and I've just been taking my time on it. I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but in the meantime, I picked up Sputnik Sweetheart and Norwegian Wood, which are, I haven't started Norwegian Wood. I started Sputnik Sweetheart. It's really good. It's a short one. Same thing with Norwegian Wood, very short, very, concise, and not going to take me 4 years to finish, which will be nice. So hopefully I have videos on those coming up soon. So at the time that I was finishing up Kafka on the Shore, where I was like, oh, I'm going to finish it tomorrow, I was looking at books. I was like, what book should I read of his next? And I immediately was like, oh, TikTok, duh. That's where I should look, because TikTok actually put me onto Kafka on the Shore. I saw a quote from it, and I was like, that's a banger quote. But instead of finding a ton of people being like, oh my god, I love this book, it was a lot of people that do not like Haruki Murakami at all. And it was a lot of people talking about a number of different issues that they had with the writing that I plan on covering in this video. But I was kind of surprised to see this. I'd heard up to this point that Murakami is, is an accomplished writer. He's been writing for about 40 years, I want to say now, a little over 40 years, I want to say. He's put out probably 24 books at this point. He's a very accomplished author. And there were some scenes while reading Kafka on the Shore that kind of put me off. I was like, oh, that's a little weird, or that's an interesting way to describe that, or interesting way to take that, plot point, whatever. But it wasn't anything that I'd really thought about all that much or looked into all that much. It was kind of, I was reading it for fun. I wasn't reading it, I wasn't paying all that much attention, I don't think. I kind of read it in 3 big stints. So 150 pages. So I think stuff kind of blended together for me a little bit. But then when I thought back, when I saw what these people were commenting, and I thought back and I read back one of the sections, I was like, you guys are maybe onto a little something. So that's why I'm making this video today. And I continued to try to, I was like, okay, maybe TikTok's not the place to be. I'm going to go to somewhere else. I'm going to go to Reddit and try and find something. And so I went to Reddit, and there was a general division there about Murakami as well. And I was like, oh my god, people are so wishy-washy on him. People either love him or hate him. It's all over the place. And that division didn't differ from, or it differed from TikTok in being that they weren't mad about the content of what he was writing. It was rather no consensus could be had on what his best work was, which is really funny to me. It was some people had Norwegian Wood #1, Kafka on the Shore not even on the list. Some people had Kafka on the Shore #1, Sputnik Sweetheart #4, and Norwegian Wood not even on the list. People were all over the place about it, and I was like, oh my god, this is so interesting. And although I've found obviously my next books from him that I'm going ahead and reading, the comments that I saw and the opinions that I saw that kind of left, I was like, oh, I should look into this a little bit more. Maybe look at making a video about it. So here we are. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the exact reasons that people, take issue with Murakami. And make sure you have some tea and are ready to rock and roll. So, starting with Murakami and his success, when you look at the sheer number of people that have read his stuff, it is unbelievable. He is an exceptionally popular author, one of the highest read authors and most reviewed authors, I guess, on Goodreads. And for good reason, I would argue. His descriptions of each scene, every thought process of the main characters are illustrated absolutely phenomenally. His use of metaphors, personification, and other tools of the pen are refined to a point where you can tell it's Murakami writing. No one can write like this dude can. And although I've only read, 1.5 or technically combined 2 of his novels now, I can understand why people are so fond of his writing, but in the same way, I can also understand why people are not fond of it. His beautiful descriptions, metaphors, and similes and personifications are kind of all for nothing, which is weird. He conjures up these fantastic images in our heads, and Kafka on the Shore transplants metaphysical imagery into these mental images, but he doesn't do anything more with them. It's kind of almost just window dressing. Yeah, like Murakami, he comes up with a fantastic metaphysical mind bender and window dresses it to the nines, but the story it's just missing some substance, and that's where I bring up the issues that that people had on social media with his writing. And the most glaring issue, the most glaring missing point I would have to say is his description and portrayal of women, one half of the human species. It's something that I saw all over TikTok as I was kind of looking for the next book that I should read. It hadn't struck me as much when I was reading the novel, but I don't think a single woman, at least in Kafka on the Shore, passes the Bechdel test. Like, I genuinely, I can't see that they would pass that, like, at all. It's so interesting to me that he chooses to write them in this way. It seems to be that the public consensus is that although he's a great storyteller, he just can't write female characters that are like either like they either have to be a plot point or there's like sexual attraction involved or intimacy involved. Like there's got to be some kind of attraction. There's no platonism, platonicness, platonicity, I guess you could call that. Oh, maybe I just invented a word. But like there's no ability for the main character or one of the males in the story at least to be platonic with a woman, and especially in Kafka on the Shore, which is it's really weird that he would write it that way. I think the over sexualization of the female characters as well as kind of airheads that are there for sex, like that's kind of like described a number of times, especially in Kafka on the Shore, which really put me off. I was kind of like, I read those scenes and I was like, that's interesting. I don't know if that's how I would have gone about describing that, you know. But, you know, like if we decide to somehow overlook that rather large point about not being able to write about half the human species, there's still the issue of no one being able to have consensus on his best work. You know, most authors, it's like their magnum opus. They have it, you know, everyone's like, oh, you know, Blood Meridian is that one guy's, I can't remember his name, but I've been meaning to get around to reading that. Blood Meridian is the one guy's best writing, and, you know, Jeff Shara's best writing is X and all that stuff. But, like, for Murakami, no one can be like yeah, I agree with you. People are like, I hated this or I loved it, and there's like no in between. Like his writing seems to either put people off or put people on, and there's no in between. You know, for the last like couple of weeks, kind of while I've been brainstorming this video and trying to figure out which video I should come back to this channel with, it's been interesting. Like I've been like, why can no one decide that like come to this agreement? And I think that the issue stems from not only the lack of female substance that his characters have, you know, because that puts off, obviously, like half of your readers are gonna be women, dude. And you just write like super shittily about them, they're obviously gonna be like, what the fuck? But also there's a lack of identity that his writing has. He comes up with insane stories about like with phenomenal descriptions. But the true meanings of the novels are kind of hidden around metaphors and personification, and some readers may pick up on it and some readers may miss it. And I think also writing, oftentimes when you read a book, the place where you're at in your life does like affect the way that you think of the book. If you're going through a bad time and you're reading a book and it gets you like happy again, you're obviously going to think very fondly of that book. So obviously it's a little bit subjective, but I think the biggest thing that like no one can agree upon it is just odd to me. I think because of the metaphysical space that he seems to weave throughout his novels kind of throws a monkey's wrench into people's opinions of his stuff. You know, I think a lot of people have trouble, myself included, wrapping their heads around exactly what he's trying to say. Because if you take his stuff at face value, it's like they're good stories, but it's just kind of like, all right, there's like no overarching meaning or underlying meaning to it. And then when you take a step back and look at everything that's said about him online, I think readers that are going into it, they're like, oh, I've heard about this guy, let me look him up online. And they're like, what the fuck? Like people are going to go into his books with a very muddy view of like what they should think of him. And I think of the writing, they're going to be kind of alert to like be a little bit more critical, I think, about it for sure, which does make sense. I think you should definitely, if you're going to read his stuff, you should definitely go into it knowing that there's issues with certain things about his writing that you're probably not going to like. You know, while he has his shortcomings for sure in terms of female characters and then substance and direction as well, I do think Kafka on the Shore, or any of his books, is worth a shot if you're looking for like a trippy story, but you got to be ready for some dark plot points and maybe a little bit of confusion. For sure. Another thing, again, like his plot points can get really weird, especially like the sex scenes. Like they're kind of unnecessary. Well, not for Kafka on the Shore. It's not unnecessary. It's kind of the whole point of the story. But it's weird. Like it's like you didn't have to describe it like that. So yeah, sex, genitalia, sexual assault, all that stuff. Like just know that you're gonna get probably something of that nature going into any Murakami book, because apparently that's something he likes to write about. So I think I've come to the verdict that he's honestly just a bit of a controversialist, but he's a very, very good. Right, he's good with words. He's good at using them to describe something. Like if you ask this dude to describe something, he could do it with the most crazy fucking descriptions ever. I think if he took the time to improve writing about women within his stories, and focused on their character development, outside of just like being in love and stuff like that, or like as a plot point or being like a point of sexual intimacy, I think that would go a long way for him. Granted, he's probably not going to change. He's like 70 something. He just put out a book that apparently is actually pretty good, especially in terms of women. So I may have to pick that one up. But I do definitely think his books are like worth just checking out. Like maybe not Kafka on the Shore if you're kind of weary going into that. Like there's definitely the way he describes women and the female characters is just not good. Maybe Norwegian Wood, or honestly, I've enjoyed Sputnik Sweetheart so far. It's kind of a cute one. I want to say I'm like maybe 60 pages. Yeah, 60 pages into it. There's like 200 pages. It'll like take you like a day to finish. You'll finish it super quickly. So maybe that one's a good one to start with. I don't know. Maybe I'll make a Eastern writer starter pack at some point, because I really like Natsumi Sosuke's I Am a Cat too. So maybe those will be something that I make. But yeah, definitely go ahead and check his stuff out. I kind of think you guys should come up with your own opinion, and definitely comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. But yeah, if you guys have any thoughts on Murakami, certainly again leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you think I'm way off base on this, or if you think I hit it on the head. I love you all. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.